Good morning, LBC Radio. You are listening to The Story with Corey Rosen and guest Cassidy Martin. Cassidy Ray is an actor, stage manager, and director in the Lancaster area. She strives to create a safe physical and mental space for people to create art while encouraging them to achieve beyond their expectations. Cassidy strongly believes that the best art is challenging, thought-provoking, and genuine. She believes that theater is for all people regardless of their age, race, ability, or social status. Over the past 12 years, she has been seen on stage and behind the stage with companies such as Creative Pursuits, Prima Theater, Servant Stage Company, and the Fulton Theater, among others. Some of Cassidy's recent projects include directing You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown at Lancaster Bible College and stage managing The Addams Family with Creative Pursuits Academy. By far, her most rewarding work is as an arts educator, teaching theater classes, directing summer camps, and investing in young artists. Cassidy is passionate about all aspects of the arts and plans to pursue that passion for years to come. With all that said, how are you doing?
I'm doing so well. I got nervous all of a sudden.
Right, it becomes real at some point.
Very
it does.
fast.
That's exactly how I felt yesterday when we started this. And yeah, right, because it's live on radio.
Hey.
Hello. All right, so Cassidy, what first inspired you to be a musician?
Oh, wow. Okay. So when I was a kid, Hannah Montana was the big thing.
Right.
And I didn't have Disney Channel growing up, but my grandma did. And so when I went to visit my grandma, I would watch Disney Channel and I would hop on YouTube when I was at home and watch Hannah Montana. So my idea in my life was that I was going to be the next Hannah Montana. But
that probably plays into your current identity crisis.
Maybe it does. Maybe I just don't know who I am. But my name was going to be Maria Bennett, and I was going to wear a straight wig that was like black hair with bangs.
Mm-hmm.
Maria Bennett, and I thought that was the most cool, awe-inspiring, alter personality. I wanted to be a rock star. And so just like Hannah Montana, but cooler. Maria Bennett was going to be cooler.
Right. It always has to be cooler.
Absolutely. So anyway, I started singing and then eventually developed a love for theater and kind of took off from there. But Hannah Montana was the start.
Hannah Montana.
Everything.
if you learn anything from Cassidy Martin, learn that she started with Hannah Montana.
It's so true.
So when did you start getting involved with theater?
Yeah, absolutely. So I took piano lessons for a long time, and I would not practice piano. Instead of practicing piano, I would sing my piano songs because they had lyrics sometimes with them.
Oh, gotcha.
So instead of playing the piano, I would sing. And my mom was like, wait a minute. Why am I paying for piano lessons when this child wants to sing? So I took voice lessons. My first voice teacher was Mr. Michael Truitt, who is the reason why I am who I am today. He was my first voice teacher. After a couple lessons, he was like, how do you feel about acting? And I was 10 at the time. And so I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do anything. And, so I started acting it. And he really encouraged me. And he was like, I think you have a really natural gift for this. And kind of took off. So my first actual audition was at the Fulton Theater in Lancaster. And I booked it. Cassidy Martin, 10 years old, walked in, auditioned. Yeah, and I got it. And that was like they called that a production lab. So the kids in the ensemble also took theater classes.
Gotcha.
When they were not on stage. So we would be at the studio taking classes. We would go on stage, perform a little bit, come off. It was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Did I say that?
No, you didn't.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That's right. I was
ensemble,
I was in the ensemble. I was one of the sewer rats, is what we called ourselves. And
I've never seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, so that was just like I was one of the sewer rats in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I was like, okay.
That's right. So in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, for people like you who don't know, it's long story short, they get in this magical car and they fly to this land far away that's called Bulgaria. Bulgaria or Vulgaria?
Probably Bulgaria.
I think it's Bulgaria.
Bulgaria is an actual place.
Oh, really?
Bulgaria is a country, yeah.
Interesting.
And
Well, it's something like that,
Right.
and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But they fly there in this magic car. This family flies there in this magic car, and they find this place where children are not allowed. Children are prohibited. And there's a mean, evil man called the child catcher who runs around and catches the children and takes them off and puts them in jail. So the kids live in the sewer to be safe, so
Okay.
they don't get caught by the child catcher. So there's a scene in Act 2 where the two main characters and the two children with them are in the sewer, and all the kids come out and they're like, "Oh, this is where all the children went. They're in the sewer." So
gotcha.
basically, I was a sewer rat, is what we called ourselves. And yeah, so we had 2 scenes in Act 2, so we had a lot of downtime. And so during that downtime, we were taking classes, and that was it. I was
That
like,
was it.
I want to
You
do
were
this.
sold.
I'm going to do this anytime I can, anywhere I can, and I did. So
Yeah, that's fine. Well, while you were describing, dude, I'm having a rough one. While you were, I'm gonna stop saying while. During your discussion
Yes.
and your explanation of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I was thinking, okay, so it's like Harry Potter, but it's the Ninja Turtles, and because they fly in the car to like Netherland, and
that's
But
Peter Pan.
I know that
Netherlands?
is Peter Pan.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I'm just thinking in my mind, how's this going?
It's true.
Dude, there are a lot of musicals that are just whack and weird.
This was the golden age of musical theater.
Yeah,
Which I think should be called the Dark Ages, because Golden Age musical theater is just so wacky. It's just
It
bonkers.
is bonkers.
And this child catcher man was terrifying. They gave him this like prosthetic face, and it was like a witch man. And it's like scary. He like ran around with this giant cart, this horse, and this giant like cage, and he would catch children. Like that's terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's like almost Pinocchio kind of.
Yeah, it's so creepy, but we were all for it.
Oh, right. We're like, oh, we love him.
I was like, I love living in the sewer.
And then you like, the actor that's playing the child catcher. And like, oh, I love him. He's awesome. He catches children.
Yeah.
It's
If
kinda
I
funny.
remember correctly, I think the child catcher was played by Donovan Hoffer, who is now kind of famous on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
He was on American Idol.
American
He
Idol.
was
There
on
are
there
several
are a couple American singing talent shows.
There are
but,
a few of those.
He does musical theater drag because he has a really high falsetto and he can sing
Oh, that's
crazy
cool.
high. Yeah, so we'd be like, it's just Donovan,
Right.
So
I'll have to ask about him a bit more.
you
I'm
should.
like, yeah.
He's crazy talented.
All right, so that was your first gig, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So it grew from there. When was your first? Have you ever had a lead or?
When was my first lead? I think my first lead. The timeline gets mixed up in my brain. I did a lot of work at a Kvad theater
Right.
in New Holland, which now it's in this little shopping complex. But back then, in the OG days, it was a little bit down the road,
Okay.
attached to a tire shop. And so, of course, where else would you sing and dance? And so I did a lot of ensemble work there. I think my first lead was Bet in Oliver with Kavad,
Okay.
which was like they moved from that place, the tire shop, to this new complex, which actually the building used to be a fashion bug.
Oh.
And I remember going there with my mom and shopping for clothing and being like, this is where Kavad's going to be.
Interesting.
So they moved. And I think Oliver was like the first show we did when we moved. And that was back when they did shows at Living Waters Theater, which was Sight and Sound's old theater.
Yeah.
Now it's a church. Beautiful theater. Anyway, long story short, I was Bet in Oliver, who is one of the lead characters, Nancy, her best friend.
Gotcha.
And that was my first like big kind of step out. I got to sing by myself. I got to tap dance on a table. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. It was me and my good friend Austin Nedrow, who's currently studying at Michigan University for musical theater,
Okay.
which is a super prestigious program.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
He's so talented. Two of us got to tap dance on a table, and it never broke once.
It never broke once.
Never broke.
That's a good thing.
But we busted it up on that table. So it was a lot of fun. So that was my big kind of my first
big break.
bigger role.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went on to do stuff in high school and so forth.
And then, so you were a musical theater major in your college career, right?
Yes.
So how did you come to Lancaster Bible College?
Yeah. So I live 15 minutes down the road from the college, and I knew I wanted a musical theater degree. I actually graduated high school a couple years early because I was like, I am ready to study theater. I am ready to do what I love. I'm ready to get going. And so, LBC is super close, and my mom's actually a professor here.
Mm-hmm.
She, at the time, she was a professor, full-time professor. Now she's the head of the education department. That's a recent installment. She's like the smartest person I know. Yeah, she just took over, I think, this past year as head of the education department, which is so cool. So, so there was that connection, and I took acting classes from David Felty at the time, who was the head of the program a couple years ago. I guess that's like 5 years ago now. Four and a half or five.
Something like that.
Anyway, so it just felt right. It was close to home. I could, live at home, save some money, and
right, saving money is important.
So important when you're trying to be an artist for a living.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but LBC has a specific policy when it comes to like professor children coming to LBC. Is that correct?
Yes, we get lots of breaks.
Right.
We we get a significant, what's that called? Scholarship. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, going throughout your college career, and how, because that can affect someone's reputation. Because some people might just be like, well, she only got in because her mother is a professor, and she doesn't have any real talent or whatever.
Yeah.
So how did that ever pop up in your college career?
It did pop up. A lot of times it popped up in the sense of, oh, you get to come here for so cheap. And I'm like, I guess you're right. I didn't really do anything to earn that. That was something that was gifted to me by the college through my mom. But it was such a small program at the time that a lot of people who auditioned were getting in. So there wasn't as much of a competitive nature to it as it is now.
That's fair. It's very
super competitive.
Yeah.
And it's
that probably helped you a lot, at least.
Yeah, with getting in and getting started. And I knew a lot of the people here already, so I had not just my mom as a connection, but also
the other people.
So
they knew that you had the talent behind the. You had a right to be here, effectively.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. I will say it's different when your mom is on campus and
I'm sure
your name is attached to hers and hers is attached to yours, and your friends are in her classes. And they come to you, and I would try to get people to trash talk her as a joke. I'd be like, "Oh, Dr. Martin, she's the worst. She's just such a mean lady,
Don't you
and
agree?
her homework is so hard." And they'd be like, "What? No, like I love her. She's great." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my mom." So
my mom's great. You're right.
You're right. I agree. But so I never really got anyone with that, which I guess speaks to my mom's reputation and how awesome she is.
Yeah.
I never got anyone to say anything bad about her, but someday maybe I'll fool someone.
Someday I'll get somebody. Yeah, that's okay. So you came here, and you had, what was your experience like at college? Because there's been so many, 4 years is a long time, and I having had some conversations with you previously, and just knowing you as a friend, you've been through it a little bit.
I have been through it. Yes. You know what? High school was hard in that I didn't have a ton of friends, and people are mean, but college was just brutal.
It's a different world.
It's entirely a different world, and 4 years is so long. And I started college. I've always been a little bit mature for my age. I started college when I was 16.
Really?
So yeah, so I graduated a couple years early.
Wow.
Skipped third grade. That's how everyone reacts. It's always just like a
Well, because
whoa.
I know I'm used to getting that reaction because I'm like I graduated high school at 17. I started college at 17, so I'm like a younger person
Yeah.
too. And people are like, "What?
What? How do you do that?"
But
Yeah.
a year earlier is just more impressive to me.
No, it's potato, tomato, tomato. You
Right?
know.
That's valid. But I'm just like, someone came here earlier than I did. What?
And it's definitely a competition. And
For sure,
I win.
it's totally a competition, and it's totally based off skill alone.
100%. It wasn't, and I was granted some really cool opportunities. I was able to skip third grade when I was young, because things were going too slow for me. And then my high school,
Were you a gifted child?
I was labeled as gifted,
Yeah.
high IQ with
So was
high
I,
achieving. Yeah, you know what? It's a curse.
It is
No,
a curse.
It's a huge blessing, and it's one of my favorite things about myself is how my brain works. I think it's so cool.
I'm a gifted child.
However, it's also comes with its own brand of
Like neurodivergence and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something we talked about yesterday about I have ADHD like severely bad.
okay, yeah.
And so we can get into that a bit later, but
Mhm.
I would like to, for our radio time, I would like to get into the meat of the college experience, which was
Oh yes.
which was the casting and the issues within the casting that you saw here at Lancaster Bible College.
Absolutely. I love how we went and trailed there to to giftedness. Yes. So when my college experience was brutal. I came in off of some really cool achievements in high school. I played a couple leads and always worked really hard. That was something that every director said about me was Cassidy is someone who works hard. And I was proud of that. And maybe at times a little bit too proud of that, but it's all in the balance.
It's all in balance,
It's all in the balance,
And it's
I'm
all part
learning.
of the journey.
It's part of the journey, and I was 16, and so I think every
Right.
16 is a little bit cocky.
Every 16-year-old is a know-it-all.
Yeah, and I am not immune to that, and still, it's always a struggle. But, I came here and I knew I was like, probably seniors are going to be getting the roles,
Mm-hmm.
and
Typically,
I
how
need
it
to put my
works.
time in. And so I did, and I put my time in, and I told myself that whatever role that I was placed in, I was going to be the best that I possibly could be. My mom used to say, if you're a tree in the ensemble, be
You
the
better
best
tree
tree
so
you can
hard.
be. You better tree so hard. You better be so convincing as a tree.
You better go whoosh with the
You better
wind.
whoosh real good. And that was the thing, is like, always do the best that you possibly can do. And I knew I was a hard worker, and I worked so hard. And what I realized was I was very consistently put in the ensemble of shows, partially because I was good at it, but also because I was a strong dancer. And
That's a fair point, because a lot of there's three things you have to do in musical theater. There is singing, there is dancing, and there is acting.
mm-hmm.
Many people have the acting. Some people don't have the sing. A slightly less amount of people have the singing, but then a substantially less from there have the singing, acting, and dancing. That is
mm-hmm.
the trifecta. And there's levels of dancing too. Like there's dancing, like just basic waltzing, and then there's like tap dancing or ballet.
Yeah, there's
Like Zachary Fernbach.
kicking your face. Oh, he's crazy.
He's
what a
absolutely
crazy
insane.
man. And I think his body was just built to dance. I mean,
truly
you can
was,
tell in the
yeah.
way he moves. You're like, that's God right there.
Right.
That he gave you quite a gift. And he uses it. He does his split leaps, and he has a great time. Yeah. So that was one of the things. I was one of the strongest dancers here. It was a pretty small program at that point, but at some point I got to the point where I was like, where am I in the pattern of these shows, and who's getting the leads? And what I noticed is that the same people were getting the leads
every single time.
And in my brain I was like, that doesn't make sense, because there wasn't as much of a noticeable difference in our classes. Like in classwork, I was always that person who was like, what can I do to be better? And in fact, after every single audition here, I would go to the panel and I would say, what was I missing? Like be candid with me. What was it that set me apart? And a lot of the times the answer that I got was, you're great. There just wasn't a place for you. That's going to make me get teary-eyed.
Yeah.
That's like
going to the panel themselves and saying why didn't I cut it would cheer me up, and I wouldn't be able to ask that question. That's
and it was
insane for you.
crazy because most of the times I got compliments, and it was
Right.
like, you're great, your acting is great, your singing is great, you dance awesome. Like, it was always positive feedback. There just wasn't a place for you. And
That's
show
rough.
after show after show after show, it was like, there's not a place for you. There's not a place for you. And so eventually I got to a point where I was like, is there no place for me in theater? And I believed that for most of my college career, that there is no place for me in theater, because that's what I was told.
Right.
And that's brutal.
That is brutal.
That's brutal when you've been performing since you were like 9. And I had enough of a head on my shoulders to know it's not because I'm completely untalented. I always had a pretty good understanding of, there's people better than me. There always will be.
There always will be, and there always have been.
Someone can always kick their face. Someone can always belt higher than I can, and that's fine. But yeah, the message that I was given was, there's no place. And I was like, well, what do I do? What do I do? I love theater. And people joke with me all the time. They're like, you know more about theater than anyone else. I'm like, yeah, I love it. It's my passion. I believe I've been gifted with a heart for theater and a brain that comprehends it and can do all these different facets. So when performing seemed to not be working out, it was a catch-22 because my confidence started to drop too.
Right.
And then I would go to auditions outside of school and be like, well, I guess ensemble's what I'm going to do. So
so you never like really went for it.
I never went for it. I boxed myself in because I believed that was the only place that I was valuable or useful, and I knew I was valuable there.
Right.
But then, not to get it twisted, the ensemble is an incredibly important part of the process,
and it's super fun as well.
Super fun, and I'm really passionate about it.
And you can do a lot of things. You can be several things with different characters as well.
Yeah, there were shows like I did The Wizard of Oz, and that was a good crack.
I know, that was nice. That was nice. I just cracked my knuckles for anyone who didn't hear that. But.
That was great. There was a show I did at Lebanon Community Theater, Wizard of Oz, and I was a tornado dancer and a poppy and Ozian, and I was all these different things.
Dancer.
Yeah, there's the tornado in the beginning.
Yeah, I've never seen like the musical theater production of Wizard of Oz. So when you said tornado dance, that makes total sense. Now that you think about it, because how else would you portray that?
It's a lot of what we did. It was a lot of lights and a lot of movement, and me and a
probably
friend,
a lot of gray.
Lots of gray and black. Me and a friend like carried like a garden hoe and like danced with it, almost as if the hoe was like
like
flying through
away.
the air.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got there from here. What was I saying?
But you were saying that you had gone to extracurricular theaters to try to get positions, and you kept going to ensembles and then boxing yourself in.
Yeah, boxing myself in, and I loved the ensemble, but I was like, I mean, sometime I'd love to like have maybe like a line.
Right.
And that was another thing, at LBC when I would audition, I would say, okay, my goal for this show is I want to have a speaking line, or I want to have one singing line. And the first time I actually achieved that was my junior year.
Was it Ruth?
Yeah.
Ruth.
Even Ruth, I was an understudy for one of the main characters.
Brianna. Now Wilhelm.
Now Wilhelm. That's crazy. I was actually in her wedding. That was a beautiful day. Yeah, and it was like, what was I saying? That was. And then so I had an ensemble track for that show, and I also had my understudy track. Mm-hmm. My ensemble track was just dancing. I didn't speak ever. I didn't.
So that wasn't. I guess technically you weren't. Even though there was a whole plan for that anyway.
Yes.
That the understudy wouldn't participate regardless.
Which was awesome.
Which was really cool, and I feel like that should be a constant thing, honestly, for like across many theaters, because that would just be. Dreams made for some people.
It was, and you know what? It was an absolute dream. And the role that I understudied had the least amount of stage time of all the leads.
Right.
And the days that I got to go on, I was just like overjoyed. And I was like, this is so cool. I get to sing, and I have these lines, and I get to go out and talk. And I was just like, I was living my moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd pop back in the ensemble and be like, okay, this is fun. Like it was cool to get to do all those different things. And there's a lot of interesting ideas in the theater community as far as, understudies shouldn't go on because XYZ. There's a reason the lead's the lead. They have the consistency, blah, 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 blah.
That's so stupid.
That's, and I agree. It's dumb because there is
if they made an understudy, they can do the part.
They can do the
That's
part.
the point of being an understudy. And why not get them at least some experience if they've never done it before? Just put them on stage, and it doesn't have to be for like consistently every single night either. It can
Right.
be like yours was only one night, right?
2 nights. I got two
Two nights?
matinees.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they had 4 shows in total, and so it was 2 and 2. That's right.
Yeah.
There was like an A and B cast. And Broadway does that all the time with like A and
my
B,
word.
A and B cast, right?
Yes, and there are a ton of Broadway performers who perform like 5 shows a week, and their understudy goes on 3 shows. And in the thing that I realized eventually is that people who get parts, at least the way it should be, is that it because there's something unique about them that they bring to the role. But the thing with an understudy is there's also something different and unique that that person brings to the role.
Yeah.
And both are equally valuable. I mean, every person has that special, and this is something I try to teach my students as an educator, is like, there's something special inside of you that nobody else has. You
yeah.
have experiences, you have, grit, you have all these things. And that's special and valuable and worthy of being seen on stage.
And besides, that's probably a good like show diversifier as well, because not granted every show is performed differently every single night, but how much more of an different experience would you get if there was just an entire B cast, and you can see it from a different point of view overall, like different chemistries between different because there's chemistry between like on like the fake characters on stage, but then there's the actual chemistry that can be shown through like you and me are going to interact differently than you and like your best friend
It's true.
acting, right?
It's true.
So, and having that completely different experience would be probably sell more tickets, if I'm being honest.
Probably.
Yeah.
You're right about that. And that's so interesting that you mentioned that, because the understudy for Naomi was one of my really good friends, Kayla Velazquez.
Yeah.
And the two of us had I think very different but also in some ways similar experiences, and we kind of bonded together over that. And we had one little scene together, and we lived for that scene. Like, that was and there was supposed to be this special connection between Naomi and the narrator, and I felt like when it was me and Kayla, it was there. Like, we didn't have to pretend or think about it. We had that familiarity with each other.
Because it was more than just acting. It was genuine, because you guys have had these experiences. And do you want to start to go into those experiences?
We can dig into those experiences.
All right. So for those of you listening on the radio, Cassidy is why don't you describe yourself so that way people don't think I'm being rude?
I am a human. No, I'm an artist. I'm an actor, an educator, a stage manager, director. Sometimes I love theater, and I do as many things as I can in the theater world. That's me.
I was talking about the issue.
Oh, the issue is, I was like, I can describe myself. Here I am. Totally fine. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so something that I realized, I'm sorry, Corey. You're like setting me up so well, and I'm just like, what?
Right. Well, I don't want to, because
I understand what you're saying. So I am fat. If you're watching on the live, you can see I'm a fat person, and I genuinely believe that the fat is not a negative term, but it is something that has been used against me. I believe in roles, because I've been told you wouldn't quite look right next to our lead. Like, you can sing the part, you can act it, you can dance it, but like you don't look right, with our man that we have playing the lead role. And
then there's simpler ways, which might have been, there's no space for you here.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. And then even as I look back, in high school I was thinner than I am now, and I got more leads than I do now. So it's a very interesting direct correlation there. And it was always funny to me, because I was like, surely fat people do fall in love.
Surely there was a fat princess at one point.
Right? Like,
surely fat people can experience emotions, right?
That's the part of my whole thing is like, everyone has a story, and everyone's story deserves to be heard. And so the message I was getting was, you know what? You're fat. Your story does not deserve to be heard. People like you don't fall in love. People like you are, not worth hearing.
Don't have happy endings.
Yeah, you don't get the happy. You get to
your background characters.
You get to be the background character. You get to be the mom, the old grandma, or the sidekick, which is like, all right.
Right.
Surely there's more.
Sure. There must be more than this, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that also really affected how I viewed myself in my daily life.
Right.
It was just like, all right, I'm, unworthy, I'm undesirable. The best place for me is somewhere where I can be easily hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And that's brutal.
That's very brutal.
Like, especially as a woman growing up, and your image is so important.
Right.
Even if we want to say that it's not, no matter who you are, especially females, it's like your image is important. And
that's like culturally ingrained too, that you must look a certain way or else you are worthless in some aspect or another.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had plenty of casting people say, oh, it wasn't because you were fat. And then I'm like, okay, what was it? And they can't quite articulate it. And I'm like, interesting.
Right? It wasn't because I'm fat, but it wasn't because of anything else, was it?
Exactly. And there's something I realized about myself is in my vocal studies, a lot of characters who are played by fat actors or characters who are supposed to be fat are really strong belters.
Yeah.
They belt their faces off. They have a brassy tone.
That's like a stereotype.
That's a stereotype in theater, definitely. And that was not my voice. Like that, my voice is not. I have the stereotypical Disney princess voice.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you do.
It's like, and I've learned to really appreciate. Like, I love my tone, and the quality of my voice is, I think, so unique. And so I was like, okay, I have the voice and the acting of an ingenue. I would try to play these sidekick characters. Like, I'd pick out a song. I'd try to sing Tracy from Hairspray, and my voice just it wasn't built to do that.
Right.
And like, maybe I could dance the part, but I was like, I cannot sing Good Morning Baltimore the way it's supposed to be sung.
Yeah.
And so I was like, great. Where do I go from here? Like, if I can't even play the stereotypical fat chick in this show.
Right, so you're a fat person with like a skinny voice. And,
yeah.
And some
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm like, you know what? Something has to change here. Something has to change. And in my brain, it's like,
it ain't me.
It ain't me, because and you know what the thing is, there is a lot to be said for the stamina that you need to do theater. And college, we've all had our moments in college where we eat McChickens, for every meal. But I have always been someone who's conscious about taking care of their body, and I'm always conscious about eating food that fuels me.
Right.
And always dancing, love to dance, so that there was never a stamina issue that I experienced, because I could dance the ensemble of shows, which was much more, I think, physically draining than many of the leads.
Oh, no, absolutely, dude. Ensemble dances are insane. I did Shapoopy for the Music Man, and I was fit back then, and I was dead.
Shapoopy is brutal. We did that in, we had like a musical review here at LBC, and we did Shapoopy. And that was actually the first, that's so interesting to mention, actually. That was the first, such a jarring moment for me, because we were doing Shapoopy, and there was like a little step out between Josh Ankenbrandt, who was in the program at the time, and they needed a girl to kind of like dance with him and be his like, I don't know, like girlfriend or whatever. And I'm like in the back, like chilling, like just doing my thing. And our director, Heather Grayberg, which is one of the few people who saw me for me
Right.
and really embraced me,
Heather Grayberg
was like,
is awesome.
she is incredible. And I am just so grateful for the way that she saw me, and she always advocated for me. And she was like, it's just a Cassidy. And I remember like looking at her and being like, are you sure? Like, I was a little bit taller than him, plus my character shoes, I was like, I can't even say that I'm like shorter and like, cute and small, but,
that's a whole other thing.
she's like, dude, you can dance it. Like,
right,
get out here.
get out here.
And if, for those of you who know Shapoopy, there's a really like complicated, cool looking leg thing that you do.
It's weird.
It's really,
that's what, it's weird, man.
it is very weird. It's very bizarre,
Fun,
but
weird.
I got to do it front and center, and I got to do cute little acting bits with Josh, and we were adorable. I look back on it and I was like, we were so cute. And I look at the pictures and I'm like, you would never for a second think, oh, that's weird that boy might think she's pretty. I look at the videos and I'm like, that's adorable, and it worked, and it was really cute.
Mm-hmm.
The end. I rest my case.
The end. That's it. That's another interesting point that you brought up, because there is a lot of like height issues within like the theater world and then like the movie world. Like for example, in Harry Potter, I know this for a fact that Hermione Granger, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, who was just, by the way, just in Lancaster recently. Ron.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Ron Weasley was in
Ron
Lancaster.
Weasley was in Lancaster. Yeah. But they were both way taller than Danny Radcliffe, Harry Potter.
Oh.
So he had to have like stilts on or like not like stilts, but like high heel
padded
shoes, and they had like to lower Emma Watson, and they couldn't wear heels or anything because he
Wow.
was shorter. And granted, Harry Potter is supposed to be taller than them in the books for sure, but also that's like so much work when you could just be. It'd be nobody would really care.
Right. And that's so interesting because as a child actor, I was always really tall. I started acting when I was like 9 or 10. And I would go to these auditions, and the first thing they would do is measure you. They would measure how tall you were. So I was always tall for my age. Even when I was skinny and I didn't have the fat issue to deal with, it was like I was always tall. And so they would measure your height, and if you weren't the right height, you couldn't even audition.
That's insane.
You weren't even considered at all. So there was one audition I auditioned for The Sound of Music at my high school before I was in high school, and there were like probably 30 or 40 girls there, and they made us all walk past the girl playing playing Louisa, who's like the second oldest daughter.
Gotcha.
And I was the only person sent home for being too tall, and it just destroyed me because everyone else got to sing, and I was like, at least let me sing. At least give me the
Give me a
opportunity of
chance.
auditioning, even if you're not going to consider me. Like, I'm a child.
right.
I was
At
a
least let
child.
me sing, and then don't like just send me home because I'm too tall. Something I can't change.
Yeah, and that brings up another.
Traumatizes.
It was definitely trying, and you know what? Every theater experience I had taught me to hate my body, whether it was how tall I was, how fat I was, the way my hair was. I feel like it was always the message was, you aren't fitting into my mold.
Right, because theater is so nitty gritty, and sometimes it has to be. Some characters have to be
Yes.
nitty gritty, because that's just how they are, and that's what the writer intended it to be.
Yes.
When it comes to like specific ethnic plays or
Absolutely.
stuff like that.
If it's directly in the storyline,
If it's directly in the
impacts the
storyline,
storyline,
yes,
then
then it has to be
there's no reason why Cinderella has to be skinny,
right,
because
or
there's nothing in the
it has to
story
be
that
white
says
for that matter.
It's true. Absolutely. Like, the story is the same. And
Either way.
honestly, probably better if she's not white, but we could get into that.
Right.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Then there's also things with like a lot of theater companies will have multiple locations, and they'll do a show in one location and then pick it up and do it in the other location because it's a different state.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll take the same costume packages from that location. And so at auditions, this was kind of traumatizing as a kid, and they would measure you,
So
and
you
they'd be
literally
like,
have to fit in.
you have to fit into the costumes. It wasn't
Right.
even a matter of, are you talented? What can you add to the story?
It wasn't
It
based
was
off merit at all. It was
not
just,
really. It was a matter of, can you carry a tune? And do you fit this very specific skirt that we need you to wear on stage?
that we specifically tailored for this one person.
We specifically tailored for this one person who lives 6 states away.
Yeah, right. And you will never know.
You will never meet this person. And and to have the same exact dimension, and they can do a little bit of altering, but
Right,
like,
but that's hard.
from what I remember, it was like, you don't fit the costume, so sorry.
That's so messed
That's
up.
so messed up. And
But-
that's, to me, that's not art anymore.
No,
That's about money, and that's about,
right. It's about money. It's
another objective. That is not theater, because theater is stories.
stories and genuine authenticity. That word.
Yeah, genuine authenticity.
That's what it was. That's the one.
One of those words.
One of those. Both of them actually.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's so intriguing because my side of theater was just I did Shrek and
Okay.
and at the time I was really really skinny, so they had me put in a fat suit, and I didn't really have to fit into something because I had to get bigger.
You have to fit the other way.
I
Yeah.
had to fit the other way. And
Yeah.
that's all, dude. That's a whole other conversation of itself because of how bad they filled it with pillow stuffing. They gave me corduroy pants. They gave me wool hat for the Shrek ears, and they gave me Hulk gloves for my hands.
You were sweating.
And I was on stage
The
lights
whole
the whole show, and my face was painted green, and they had to put hairspray. They had like hairspray in my face so
It's
that way
nasty.
it was. And they dedicated an entire industrial fan to me.
This is Corey's fan.
Well, because some people would use it, like some of the younger, more, like the middle school people would just use it and
Yeah.
have fun with it. This one girl was really annoying with it. She thought she was also entitled to it, but she was
You're
not.
like, listen, is your face painted green right now? Are
Listen,
you wearing
are you
7
even
layers?
Fiona? No, you're
No.
Fiona's younger self.
You are baby Fiona.
Right.
That doesn't count.
But yeah, and I was the jester in Once Upon a Mattress.
Oh,
And
fun.
yeah, and I was understudy for Beast and Beauty and the Beast as well. So so those experience, and then I was like cast whatever. Those experiences, I was just under the assumption I've never been in like a professional theater capacity, I should say. That's what I'm getting across.
Yeah.
So I've never known that, but now that you think about it, it just sounds obvious that that's how somebody would set it up to be, especially with like the driven by profit.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, theaters do have tight budgets.
Always
Tight budgets.
if your theater doesn't have a tight budget, they're doing something wrong.
Doing something wrong. So on some level I can understand that, but on a different level, there should be room.
Absolutely. Some wiggle room.
Somewhere, yeah.
Somewhere. Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because each theater is its own monster as far as high school theater, and even in my brain, when I go to see a show or experience an audition process at a local theater, I tend to pretty much figure out pretty soon, right away almost, what they're here for.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when a theater is catering towards tourists and getting that money grab, and well, there's, in a way, there's nothing wrong with it, but there also is, in my heart and in my brain, I can't justify doing theater for money, because it's art for me, and maybe that makes me a hippie artist, but that's how my love is theater, my love is art.
Right. There's definitely a balance, because to do art, you have to have money.
And get paid a fair, livable wage.
A fair living wage at the same time. And then you have to spend all this money to make this product, and then you have to market the crap out of it, or else you're not going to get any money in return on it. So in some ways, it's definitely a hard place to be in, especially as a theater who is more attracting tourists than local audiences, like Sight and Sound, for example. Their audience is worldwide at this point.
It is, yeah,
truly. And so their entire market and what is that called? Market strategy, whatever it is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
is that they have to be the biggest, be the best, be the most extravagant theater that they can, because as one of the only Christian, I think the only Christian theater, like solely based theater in the world. Yeah. At least the nation.
At that level, at least.
At that level,
to have Christian theater at that such high production quality,
right?
It's unheard of anywhere else.
It's completely unheard of anywhere else. It makes total sense that they have to cater to outside, because they're not going to reach that audience in just in Lancaster, PA, or even PA in of itself.
Yeah.
And they have the other location in Branson, Missouri.
That's right.
But I do believe that Lancaster is the better version of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to throw any shade at Branson, but
we love you, Branson.
We love you, Branson. But theater, Lancaster is just where it's at.
That's so true. Yeah, and it's interesting because coming to LBC, I kind of felt like a training grounds for Sight and Sound. That was a lot of what people were aiming for, was, I'm going to train at LBC and go to Sight and Sound.
That's what I came here for, actually.
Did you really initially?
So I thought about it, and I was like, as a music composition major, I thought, I was like, I want to make these shows that go on Broadway. And then my parents were like, okay, how about, realism check here? And then I was like, okay, fine, I'll just go work at Sight and Sound.
Because that's such small potatoes.
Yeah, right. Because it's so much smaller and so much different. And I wanted to be either an actor because I've just come off the cusp of being Shrek and Beast and all those things. And granted, there was a gigantic reality check in that the fact that the caliber of musicians here is way above in regards to singing.
Okay.
Because I'm not a singer. I'm not a very good singer. But I had been trained and taught throughout high school that I was, because I was in a children's Baltimore choir. I was in the a cappella at my high school, which was a decent, highly caliber group.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had done all these different, I've like gone to states and such. So I thought I was decent.
Yeah.
But it's either that I wasn't, or something happened in between, because you can injure your voice and injure your singing voice,
and puberty, and you hit so many stages of puberty even when you're an adult.
Right. So
changes.
I'm sure one of those things happened, and so yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be an actor, and then I wanted to just write music for Sight and Sound. And
wow.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because like you think that's what you want, and I did at some point too, and then I realized like my passion for theater and my mission field, I didn't feel called to Sight and Sound. I felt like it was intriguing, it was cool, and production value is huge, and to have a consistent paycheck sounds awesome,
and to have your name attached to that kind of a big theater.
But I realized like that wasn't where my mission field was, and that wasn't what I was called to.
Right.
And that was such an interesting realization to come to when you're here and you're trained and you're like, Sight and Sound is like the thing
to do. Yeah, because for those who don't know, a lot of LBC alumni and even students go to Sight and Sound and perform there. We know several of our friends that we went to college with are at Sight and Sound right now in David.
Yeah, and they love it.
And they love
they're thriving. Yeah. And it's interesting to get to that place where I was like, I don't think I would thrive in a place like Sight and Sound. It wouldn't set my heart on fire the same way that doing theater in secular environments would. That's
another conversation, because that I feel like, I don't know exactly, but I think that should be more of a focus here than it is. But I could you speak to that a little bit? How much of a focus is that?
Absolutely. I think the program that I came into was really small, and so it's always been growing. There's been so much growth and so much change, and I think we're moving towards that. We're definitely not there yet.
Right.
And I think part of that is like we used to do more plays here.
Right.
Not a ton, but more, and that kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, there was always a spring musical and a fall like play.
Yeah, and I think
or fall musical.
It's like technically it's like a winter musical, fall, but whatever. We used to have two, and the play used to kind of fall to the wayside, because it is such a strong music program. But I definitely saw music take over, and as someone who I have been very gifted with a really, really cool voice, never the best. I was never the most vocally flexible. I was never the highest singer. I was never up in the top there. I was always like, and I was told by teachers that I was a very middle of the pack kind of person, which I interpreted to mean all around, but I realized it was just music wise, vocally middle of the pack. I can sing well. I like my voice a lot.
Your voice is very good.
It's taken me a long time to get to a place where I'm like, okay, my voice is not the best, but I like it. What was I saying? Yeah, there's definitely a shift towards music, and as someone who is more passionate about the acting and storytelling side of things, I felt like there wasn't much of many outlets there. And we're definitely moving in the right direction. We just did Radium Girls.
Right, yeah.
Which is a really beautiful, like dramatic, crazy acting piece. And I think that's just the beginning of really good things. And something that's been a journey for me as a person is that I feel like the best years of LBC musical theater are to come, and I feel like I was here for a lot of growth and change.
It was really cool because when we are, did you come in 2017 that year?
Because 2016 I did Hello Dolly as a high schooler, and then I came in full time as a student 2017.
Yeah, so I feel like 2017 was like in my opinion, like Matthew Wilhelm, Brett Rakowski,
Yeah.
Zach Fernbach, like these powerhouse
Powerhouses.
people,
Yeah.
like truly powerhouse people, came into the program and really, really set it apart from other programs. Like I remember Dr. Bigley, the head of, what is he? He
I
was
think
the
it's
head of
choral studies.
choral studies.
And
He's
something else, yeah.
in charge of all the vocal stuff. To put it mildly, he had said that the caliber of students here rivaled that of Peabody.
oh wow.
Yeah,
And Peabody's no joke.
Peabody is the pinnacle of music education within the United States. And there's another one that I'm forgetting as well, but Peabody is there, and when he had said that to me, because I was feeling a lot of like, these people can do things I cannot.
Cannot.
I was
never.
I was going to get kicked out of college for my percussion jury like stuff,
Oh
because
wow.
I was a horrible practicer. I'll put it that way. But
It
I
wasn't
just
your thing. You weren't passionate enough about it.
I wasn't
and that's
passionate
okay.
enough
Yeah.
about it. But what saved me was my composition. Thank God.
Which you're awesome at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a talk with him, and he had said that, don't worry about it. This is not your average college experience.
Mm.
And when he put it that way, and once I like actually saw other people of the age like doing their things, I slowly realized, because in my mind, Zach Fernbach was like the pinnacle of male musical theater
gold.
Literally musical theater gold. He's amazing voice, amazing looks,
Yeah.
amazing dancing.
You know what? He's a quadruple threat.
He has the
he's
looks
attractive,
too. Yeah,
He's a dancer. He's a singer. He's an actor.
he's
Zach, I hope you listen to this. You're
Zach,
awesome.
You're awesome, and I wish to have you on the show.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. And like then you have Britt, who's an amazing singer.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Matthew Wilhelm, who has just the most velvety voice you could ever imagine.
Like butter.
And he when you think of a man, like a masculine, perfect man, I think of Matthew Wilhelm. Because in the beard too. The beard is what really stole.
He does grow a sick beard.
A sick beard.
Yeah. And he was always a really great storyteller too. Not
he's
only was his voice phenomenal, but his act. He made opera interesting, which is very hard to do.
That's very hard to do. Yeah. I'm gonna have to bring him on the show just to hear his voice in my head for a solid 3 hours.
People would pay for that.
Yeah, I would pay for that. And like you have these gigantic powerhouses along with like Richard Thomas, King, absolute
hardest
king,
working human in the whole world,
and most talented like musical theater
can
major.
do anything.
Can do it. He can walk on stilts and juggle and do a backflip.
Literally. He
literally
literally can do all. For those of you who don't know him, he literally does all those things.
all those things, and gets paid, I hope, wonderfully for it. And then like Braden Crick came in as well. He's a powerhouse singer.
Incredible singer. Like, oh my God. I mean, he's your stereotypical musical theater boy, He's like great voice. And he also is someone who works really hard. He's dedicated to the study of theater. And even when it comes down to like auditioning and the art of auditioning and the art of the rehearsal process, he's there. He's looking at it and he's there. He's awesome.
Yeah, so these powerhouse musicians coming on, and that's what I really think launched LBC's MWPA, or specifically musical department, into like stardom almost.
Yeah.
Because after that, then you have like Brad Meyer coming in and
King
and all these other like kings and queens of like musical theater coming, and all these different powerhouses coming in, and it was. And that's why I was so intimidated, because I didn't realize that these all were like specific handcrafted powerhouses coming to a theater.
I like to call them genetic monsters. Because I think some of it is just they were gifted.
They were
incredibly.
They were handcrafted by God to do theater.
Yeah.
In many aspects.
And many of them are also very hard workers.
And
cool.
they deserve it.
Absolutely.
And so when I came in, I was like. And then you have like like the actual music side. You have Matt Cross.
Oh, insane drummer.
The best drummer
in the world.
I would say in the world, but I know that Matt Cross Matt Cross would deny
He'd be
that statement.
shaking now if
would
he
be
heard that.
He's a super humble guy, super awesome dude.
Great man. Yeah.
He's the guy that literally every single person here wanted him to play drums in their senior recital.
Yes.
Yes, he is the go-to guy, and he's the only guy. And I came in as a percussion major.
Oh no, Corey.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Talk about living in a shadow.
It was him and me, and it was like, well, here's this like handcrafted drummer made by God, and then here's me who can barely play a drum set. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
All I did
I guess I'm worthless then.
right, yeah. So I had that whole like, what am I doing here? And
Wow.
then you had like Kate Ray on piano.
Yes. Oh, gorgeous performer too.
Right, and you had Karen Munez on saxophone and Adeline.
Her voice.
And her
Both
voice.
of the Karen and Adeline both were like crazy because like I knew them first as singers, and then they like whipped out an instrument and started playing, and I was like, "What can you not do?"
and I Karen, Adeline, and I were have been really, really, really good friends. We've traveled several, and their voices meld so well.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But
I can see it.
So all these powerhouse musicians come in, and I'm like, where do I fit in? And I'm like the only composition major besides Lane Burkholder, and Lane Burkholder is his own monster in regards to like composition and everything. And I'm like, I haven't even written a song yet, and I'm here as a composition percussion focused major, and I'm like, do I really belong here? Like, how? And part of me thinks like, okay, I had to audition for this, and they said yes.
Right. Someone thought I was good at some point.
but it's also like, but they also said yes to all these other people. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
there's definitely something to be said for that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Which is what it's a term people have been using recently of like, you know, there are other people who are better than I am, and am I even worth it to hear?
Yeah.
Am I even worth being here? Oh my gosh, I get that all the time now, especially as like a young director.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, am my ideas really that cool or good? And then I get into it and I do it, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I love this, and this is so fun, and it's in there.
Yeah, there are times where I've been in like leadership positions, but I don't realize it.
Yes.
And that you actually have some swing and power.
Crazy.
It is. It's a crazy thing to encounter. Because I've messed up a few opportunities because I didn't take that leadership role, and and part of me regrets that, but part of me it's all a learning experience.
You learned,
and that's all that's all you can do. You know, it is what it is.
Right.
On that note, we have to end our radio time.
Oh no.
Yeah. So if you're listening on the radio, we will continue this conversation on Facebook at The Story. For those listening to The Story, we're going to keep going.
Woo.
But first, in order to transition, we are going to hear a piece by Cassidy Martin herself.
What?
Would you like to introduce this piece?
I would love to introduce this piece. So this is a song. Something I've been learning recently is that you don't have to sing anything impressive or crazy. You can sing because you just love to sing.
Absolutely.
And when Corey said, I want you to like have a recording to play, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bring something that maybe is not necessarily technically crazy, but a song that I love to sing. And I think you can hear that when you listen to it. So this is the song "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman," written by Miss Carole King herself, made famous by Aretha Franklin. Super timeless, great song. So I hope you enjoy. Looking out on the morning rain, I used to feel uninspired, and when I knew I had to face another day, Lord, it made me feel so tired. Before the day I met you, life was so unkind, but your love was the key to my peace of mind. 'Cause you make me feel, you make When my soul was in the lost and found, you came along to claim it. I don't know just what was wrong with me, till your kiss it helped me name it. Now I'm no longer doubtful of what I'm living for, 'cause if I make you happy, I don't need to do more, 'cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. Oh, baby, what you've done to me made me feel so good inside. And I just wanna be close to you. You make me feel so alive, 'cause you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. Oh, you made me feel, you made me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman. Oh, you make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel like a natural woman, natural woman.
If you thought that was impressive, just know that she recorded that at 3 a.m. last night.
I worked a shift. I work at an event venue, and I worked from, what was it, 8:30 a.m. until midnight, and then went out to the diner afterwards, got some food, went home to my kitchen, and
Like,
recorded
oh shoot,
that.
I gotta record this, recording. So if that's what you can do at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I know personally that she can do way more than just that.
Woo.
Where can they find you?
Where can they find me? On social media, my handles are, well, my Instagram handle is at Cassidy Ray Martin. Ray is with W-R-A-Y. You can see the spelling online at the story. And I'm also on Facebook. Cassidy Ray is my name. Give me a good old friend request. I'm there. I think I have an old Twitter account.
Do you have like a Facebook page or anything? Or
As an artist, no.
you should probably get on that.
You know what? And I've been thinking, when I graduated, I almost made a website for myself.
I feel like that was almost like a requirement for some people.
I know, but that's what you did. You graduate,
Right.
you make a website, and I need to. I to be honest with you, like got into the beginning processes of it, and I bought my domain name, but then I was like, I got self-conscious, and I
Right.
was like, ugh, is this actually worth it? Am I actually going to keep up with this?
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it now, I'm like, yes, I want to have it. I need to have it. I have plenty of things to put on there.
So what's the domain then?
You know what? I wish I remembered.
I wish I
I
remembered.
think it's www.cassityraymartin.com.
Well, if
It's
you
wordy.
remember, I'll
Yeah.
put it in the post for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that said, radio, it's time for music.